I'm Jono Buchanan. In this video, we're going to look at the difference between region and track automation. But before we do that, what we're going to do is to really talk about what automation is for. Now, generally speaking, what we want to be able to do as our tracks develop is to have them evolve in various ways. We might want a sound to kind of fade in over 16 bars. We might want its filter to change. We might want to open up an effect which just happens at a particular point in the track. And the reason why we make those changes is because we want our music not just to be organized in lumpy blocks that just repeat exactly the same way every single time, but that there is a sense of evolution as our productions sort of unfold. Well, at the moment, I haven't got any of that going on within my track. This is just a series of lumpy blocks. Let's have a listen to it. Okay, so effectively, the question that all of us have to ask ourselves as we're working on our productions is, what do we want each sound to be and how do we want it to evolve over time? Now, effectively, what I'm going to start by doing is thinking about the drums within this project. I've got two separate loops that are making up the drum mix. I've got this main mix here, which is, or this main loop here, which is providing me with the kick and various other bits and pieces. But crucially, it's not providing any of the backbeat. So we've got sort of nothing much happening on beats 2 and 4. Then what I've also got is this separate loop, which Logic has got lots of, referred to as a kind of topper loop, which is providing all of the top end without any kick. And this is where I'm getting my backbeat. Now, the overlap between these loops comes in the kind of hi-hats. What I really want to do is to sort of say, okay, well, I want the backbeat of this top loop, but what I want to do for the rest of the time that the loop is playing is that I kind of want to kind of diminish the sort of volume, if you like, of the rest of that loop. So effectively what I want is a little sort of shape which is going to provide extra volume for the backbeat, but less volume for the rest of the loop. Okay, well, there are lots of regions here. I can see that my top loop is made up of only 2 beats. So each individual region here is only 2 beats long. So if I decided that what I wanted to do was to open up the automation by pressing A and coming to the volume shape, and if the volume shape that I wanted, let's say, was this kind of a shape where I was emphasizing the backbeat and lessening everything else, it's going to take me quite a lot of copying and pasting to create that effect every single time the top loop happens. I'm in track automation mode. At the moment, you can see it says track here, which basically means that it's automation that relates to every single part of the track, literally from start to finish, from bar 1 to the very end. I have a chance to create an automation solution, which I can think about kind of holistically over the entire track. But that's not really what I want to do with this loop. What I want to do is to create a little shape which is going to apply to every single region. So what I'm going to do instead is to undo each of those steps until I have no automation at all. And instead what I'm going to do is to come to region-based automation instead. And you can see that when I click on this button, I'm just literally toggling between these two different things. Okay, so let's come back and create a shape here instead. I still want this little rise that happens into the backbeat, which is going to be here. But what I then want to do is to back this down so that effectively what I'm doing is creating this shape across a region. Now, the great thing about region automation is that I cannot go beyond the borders of the region. It's automation that is specific to a region. So I'm going to make this nice and extreme. I'm going to have a sort of 8 dB change from the start of each region to the end of it with this ramp up through the middle. Okay, now let's just have a listen to that one version of this loop by itself. Okay, so I've got this kind of envelope shaping now happening on this sound. I can definitely hear that the backbeats are louder, which is what I want, and I can hear that everything else is being de-emphasized. And if I want to, what I could even do would be to use the automation curve tool to just make that a little bit more extreme so that I'm backing down the volume of everything else as it sort of falls. Okay, so I've got this region and I've got its automation. And now all I need to do is to sort of make sure that I'm using it all the way through the track. So this is where we get into the kind of joy of exponential copying. If I copy this once, then obviously what I have a chance to do is to then just select each one, and every time I select all of these, then of course the automation length doubles each time, and now what I've got is the entire track covered. And what we could also do, I suppose, would be to do this intro section as well. So let's just get all of these regions in position, and now what they've got is their region automation, which is specific to just each individual region. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, can I use region automation and track automation together? Well, absolutely. When might that be a good idea? Well, let's think about a way in which I might decide that I want to bring this loop in over a longer period of time than just the 2 beats of each individual region. Let's suppose, for instance, that what I wanted to do was to filter in this sound. I could come down to the track. I've gone back to track automation, by the way. I could come down to this individual track, come and have a look for an effect. And what I want to do is to come and find the filter and the auto filter specifically. And what I might decide to do would be to start with a low pass filter treatment that basically brings the frequency content up from a sort of muted start point to something brighter and shinier by the time the rest of the track arrives. Something a bit like that. So straight away what I've done is to adjust the cutoff over a number of bars. So therefore it can't be region automation because I'm using multiple regions across the time that I'm introducing this cutoff change. So what I want to do instead is to come into latch mode and simply draw a little bit of data for this parameter, and I can immediately see that I've introduced it into the track automation lane. And then what I'm in a position to do is to come out of solo mode, have a look at this alongside the other parts of my track, and see, sure enough, it starts here. And what I want to do is to slowly introduce sort of frequency change here up to a point where the sound is a little bit brighter at the time that everything else comes in. And we can make that nice and extreme so it comes out of this really murky start point. So that sound's now got a kind of journey which is taking it all the way through from the beginning of the track to the end. And of course I could apply a really similar technique to loads of other parts within the track as well. I might decide to apply a similar filtering technique to maybe the main bass loop or the thing that's sort of playing our hook. And effectively then what we're doing is we're beginning to drive the production all the way through, and we get away from our lumpy blocks of just something which is repeating without any repetition. But over here in region automation mode, we can also see that we've got volume being managed within that loop as well. So if the automation that you want to use is constant and it applies to a region multiple times, I would look at applying those changes at a region level. And if what you want to do is to draw longer, more unfolding changes over a longer period of time, it's probably track automation that you're going to want to use.